at 7:01. We rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please, or kneel if you feel fit. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call.
Council President Harris.
Here.
Councilor Kuiper.
Here.
Councilor Robinson.
Here.
Councilor Garland.
Here.
Councilor Young. Here. Thank you.
Thank you. And do I have a motion for the approval of the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Perfect. And consent agenda, I have approval of September 19th, 2017 City Council meeting minutes and the approval of the September 26th, 2017 City Council meeting minutes. And I am going to go to Josh for some information on the September 26th, 2017 City Council meeting minutes.
Right, so there's been some conversation about the tallying of the vote on the health fitness contract. The minutes reflect Councilor Harris voting in the affirmative for the contract. Reviewing the video, she said the word "I," but at the time for the no votes. So there's some ambiguity about what her vote was and what should be reflected in the minutes. And so if the minutes as drafted currently reflect a yes vote, if council would like to review that or has a different conclusion, then this would be the time to discuss that before approving those minutes.
So I was sitting right next to her, and I do believe that she was voting no. I think when the vote was tallied, she did not have a response during the yays. And I believe she was trying to say nay to the question of no. But that's how I interpreted it.
Well, that was my interpretation too. In fact, I didn't realize that are we supposed to be reviewing the tape tonight? Because
We do have the tape here if you'd like to view it.
I don't have a question, no.
I'm fine with the amended minutes.
Yep.
Okay, so
And that was my understanding as well. And I guess Jen can just clarify what her intention was.
Yes.
Yeah, I was voting against the contract, and I explained to Ray that I generally follow staff recommendations. They have been doing this a lot longer than I have, and I generally defer to them for their recommendations, and rarely, if ever, have I gone against their recommendations. So again, I said the wrong word, but I said it in the right place. So I would like to move to amend the September 26, 2017 City Council meeting minutes to show that I voted in opposition.
So my suggestion, because of the kind of the ambiguity in the way that the vote was cast, would be that the amended minutes in the section on it's page 28 of your packet where it reflects the vote be amended to say vote motion failed 1-5. Councilor Robinson voted in favor. Mayor Clark Endicott, Councilors Kuiper, Young, and Garland voted against. Councilor Harris voted aye at the time the nay votes were called. Upon review of the meeting video, council determined it was her intention to vote no, and that the vote should be tallied accordingly. The reason for that is simply so that there's clarity in the record. If anyone's reviewing this later on down the line, how is it that ambiguity was resolved, that to determine she voted no? And we had clear in the minutes that was how that happened.
That's clear to me.
I'm okay with that, yeah. So
if your motion is to amend the minutes accordingly, then we just need a second and a.
So my motion is to amend and adopt the minutes. Is that right? Or
As
adopt and
amended.
amend as amended? Yeah. Okay, that is it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Don't say aye. Motion carries. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Now that's those minutes. There's also a previous set of minutes that we need to.
Oh,
also
for the whole thing?
For the September.
So all in favor of approval of the September 19th City Council meeting minutes? Say aye.
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 On all opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. It's not a motion, is it? Minutes carry?
Consent agenda approved.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. We're starting right off with citizen comment. And while those are coming down, I would like to publicly say happy birthday to Miss Counselor Robinson. Happy birthday.
29 again. Happy birthday, Counselor Robinson.
We discussed singing, and it was discussed that that probably wouldn't make your day.
I don't
So
need that.
we're going to leave that.
The motion
at that.
failed.
Yeah, the motion failed. So I have Kathy Hallman. Not on.
There you go.
Okay. Kathy Holloman, 14735 Southwest Brook Court in Sherwood. My presentation is about no to recreational marijuana in Sherwood. In the recent Sherwood Archer, Councilor Sean Garland stated that he is a supporter of repealing the ban on the sale of recreational marijuana in Sherwood. Repealing that ban would, he claims, result in $120,000 in tax revenue for the city of Sherwood, marijuana money. First of all, that amount is pure speculation. I'm here to show you that the cost to our city would be much greater than that, and for that reason, I'm totally against repealing that ban. First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm a veteran teacher. I've been teaching 25 and a half years. As such, I've seen many things. On this issue of marijuana, one of the most profound things that we've seen is an increase in student use since recreational marijuana became legal. This is due to an increase in availability of the drug. While some adults might use recreational marijuana in their own home and it doesn't spill out onto the streets, some people will buy marijuana and sell it to kids just to make a buck. We have adults recruiting kids to sell marijuana to other kids, then giving them a cut, as well as paying for a cell phone and nice clothes to be the dealer in the mix with other teens. Let's calculate the increased costs of policing this uptick in marijuana use amongst middle and high school youth. One administrator to handle the increased drug referrals, annual salary $75,000. Security guard for increased patrol of school for truancy and handling of drug referrals, annual salary $25,000 to $30,000. School resource officer, because while it may be legal for adults, it isn't for kids, so now the law has to get involved. Annual salary starting around $40,000. But I think there's an even greater cost. Some of these kids will become addicted and have to go to rehab and therapy, and they might flunk out of school, having grave consequences for their future. Because of teen drug use, their immature brain is primed for addiction, so they will look for their next drug to level up. Cocaine, meth. Nope. 1 in 5 teens use prescription drugs, mostly opiates, painkillers like Vicodin and OxyContin. But then those are pretty spendy on the black market, so they switch to heroin. Yep, it used to be the hardcore street drug, now seen and used by some high schoolers. Whoa, you say, that's a far stretch. Heroin? Yes, increasing accessibility of marijuana for Sherwood youth might lead them there. As a parent and a health teacher, there is no amount of tax revenue from marijuana that would change my mind about repealing the ban on recreational marijuana. Whatever the amount, our kids are worth more than that. If you as an adult want to smoke marijuana, that's your life up in smoke. Drive down the road and get it. Let's keep recreational marijuana out of Sherwood. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Perfect. Russ Court.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Russ Court. I'm a chiropractic physician and a board-eligible functional neurologist here in Sherwood. I also would like to speak on the marijuana. As a functional neurologist, I deal with brains on a daily basis. I was asked by several people to come here and speak today because I had somebody come to my home that wanted me to sign a waiver, and when I asked him what the waiver was, he said, "Oh, this is to keep marijuana out of our town, out of our city." And so I signed it, and then I started reading it, and it turns out that that wasn't what the waiver was at all. This waiver was to actually have more marijuana brought into the town. I agree with you 100%. As a functional neurologist, I see children all the time that are dramatically affected by this drug. Just today, I have a lot of patients who fly in from different parts of the country, and just today I had a patient come in from Kennewick. She's a beautiful 17-year-old girl who started smoking marijuana at the age of 13. Most of our appointment today, I cleared my entire afternoon schedule to speak with her. Most of our appointment today was consisted of multiple profanity and why she didn't need to be there. For the last 2.5 years that I've known this child, she's been in and out of detention centers, in and out of rehab. Her mom, they come from a middle to high income family. Her father is a geologist and works up there up in Kennewick, and her mom is a quantum biochemist. And yet this child started off with marijuana, actually went to heroin, opiates first, then heroin, because they're the same kind of receptors. One's legal, one's not. In our discussion today, she's done every drug that you can think of. She has done meth, she's done heroin, she's done cocaine, she's done crank, all kinds of different drugs that I don't even know the name of. About 4 months ago, her parents were able to get her into a facility in Phoenix where she escaped and was on the streets for 3 weeks. On the streets, she was gang raped by 5 men that we know of. She was also put into child sex trafficking, and she was rescued by a group of people that do hacking, and they were able to get a cell phone ping on this child, and she was immediately grabbed and flown back to Kennewick. So I've seen her twice, and both appointments were very similar. I'm going to see her again tomorrow. This is only one of the children that I deal with that's been directly affected by this drug. I don't know if anybody has looked at all the ways that our children can get it. When we were kids, it was only smoking. But now when you look at the edibles, I actually had printed it off and I forgot it at my office, I apologize. But the edibles look like regular candy. I have a 15-year-old boy and an 11-year-old girl in this community. And I am very, very, very opposed to this because I treat these children. Getting into the scientific aspect of it, the problem with this marijuana is that it's not the marijuana that we were exposed to when we were children. This marijuana is 5 times stronger than anything we've ever seen. Okay?
Finish up.
Okay.
Wrap it up.
The big scientific problem is that it actually changes one of the major nuclei in the brain called the nucleus accumbens. This nuclei is the addiction nuclei. And my research shows that it actually triples the size in children in the age of 12 to 17. Triple the size of this nuclei means that this child or this person will have triple the propensity for addiction. And this nuclei is all the addiction centers, whether it's porn, chocolate, candy, sex, whatever, it has to go through this nuclei. It's a roundabout in the brain. And to have this triple in size, we've never seen this before. I was doing research this morning and this afternoon, and there's lots of slope on the marijuana side, and there's lots of slope on the neurological side. But I'm telling you, as a physician, I see this all the time, and I felt compelled to come and speak.
Thank you so
If anybody
much.
has any further questions, this is Dr. Court. I'm above the Sherwood Ice Arena. I'd be happy to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our clause. You forgot the J, our J clause.
Robert James Claus, 22211 Southwest Pacific Highway. I love, Yogi Berra. It's Dave. Deja vu all over again. But I want to tell you something I think is really funny. My oldest boy's senior year here, the football team was headed for the state playoffs. Connie weighed about 265. He was 6'5", and he had, in head-to-head, broken, I think, 3 bones that year. Guys were carried off, and they had special investigations because he could really hit, and he liked to hit. He's a policeman now, so what can you say? Hear that, Jim? Don't want to meet him in a dark alley. Anyway, right before the crucial game with the Dowls, the players, not all of them, Connie was not among them, went out and had a party where there were 4 beers served. I think one of the players might have drank a beer, but I doubt that. And that whole team was disqualified from going into the playoffs. And then they had to go through everything. And here we are talking about marijuana. I'm not sure we're progressing much. Not that I think marijuana is a bad thing. If you use it, I'm not saying that. My brother had the right attitude. Smoke and drink if you want, but you come on to play on my basketball field, I'll cure you that in a hurry. And he would. But there's the thing I want to talk about, that we're in another period, and this is not the first time we've had somebody walk off, that we've had to bring in somebody interim that's very familiar with government to work to get over the period. Hopefully you'll beat the recall, and hopefully we'll keep that people on. But if you do, there are some people in this town that really have a lot of experience and can be used in a way to, work through things. Lee Weisvogel is one of them. There's a couple others. But that's what we had to do last time this thing happened. We had to bring in an interim person. Lee Weisvogel was the first choice. City manager walked off. We had big problems. But it was amazing, the transition Weisvogel and some of the other people made. I don't know if he's still available. He's like all of us, getting older every day, luckily. But this is going to be something you're really going to need to think about, because it's getting to the point now where if you're not familiar with the land use rules, it's really difficult to apply them. So if you don't want to use something like Lee, who is, Tualatin Valley water, years of experience, there are other people that are civil servants that could work ideally with your existing staff and make any transition very, very smooth. Because that's, from my viewpoint, what you need is a civil servant to help in the transition while keeping a citizen representative council. Because you make very, very good policy decisions, and even though they're difficult to implement, if we keep going the way we are, they will implement them. And I think in another 6 months, I think the average citizen will appreciate your efforts, so you don't get too discouraged. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have. Anyone else? Perfect. We'll move on to new business. City Council applicant interviews.
Everybody have their form? Yes.
So Council President Harris, you have 2 people yet to interview tonight. I believe Renee Browse and is it Michael Kahn, who I believe are both here. So I'll let you decide what order you want to go in.
I'll go with the old adage, ladies first. And if Renee's okay with that, we'll bring her up. Did you guys get 2 of these?
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. No, I have mine too, but I wasn't sure if I just had extra. So, Sean, would you be
Sure.
interested in starting the first, and we'll just go similar to like the way that we did last time, but I'll
Absolutely.
start on the other end.
Sounds good. Renee, thank you for coming tonight. First question, can you tell us about yourself and why you want to serve on City Council?
At the end of November, it will be 11 years that we moved to Oregon, into Sherwood. Been married to my husband, Rob, for 27 and a half years. We have 2 kids, actually young adults at this point in time. I have a son-in-law and then 2 dogs. As far as why I want to be on council, I've been involved in a number of service opportunities in the community over the 11 years. Chamber, Rotary, community events like the Onion Festival, Robin Hood Festival, Cruisin'. There's been a lot. But service is the core of who and what I am. I was on council. I was elected in May of 2015, served until January of this year. I would have run in November, but was going through a job change, didn't want to be elected and then take the chance of having to vacate a seat. But I thoroughly enjoyed serving in council when I was on council, and I have the skill set for it, and just want to be back in the seat where I can help bring a spirit of collaboration and leadership to the role.
Thanks.
Okay, sure. Okay, thank you also, Renee, for coming and for completing an application. You've provided some of your background in your application and this discussion. What do you feel are your strengths that you can bring to council?
Service was number 1, leadership, being able to see multiple sides of an issue, and being able to listen intentionally without forming an opinion ahead of time. I would say also what we see with issues are usually the symptoms versus the actual problem. So being able to dig down and try to find the root of the problem. Those are all good problem-solving skills that would be an advantage to council, and all characteristics that I bring to the table. Thank you.
What do you feel that your responsibilities as a member of council would be?
One of the responsibilities is to advocate for our citizens and be that voice for our citizens, and also fiduciary responsibilities, making sure we're good stewards of the funds that we're in charge of, and representing our community and representing it well.
What do you see as the 3 most important issues facing the city in the next 2 years?
First, happy birthday, Sally.
Thank you.
You're welcome. No disrespect to any of you up there. I think one of the first things we need to do is rebuild trust. There's a divisiveness in this community that I think it's going to take us, you all as elected officials, hopefully I get to rejoin as an elected official, but rebuilding that foundation of trust. I think another issue is growth. We have a large number of residential growth, but I believe we need to focus in on business growth as well, specifically industrial growth. With growth, I think we also need to keep in mind the changing demographic. We have our citizens that are aging, older. Hey, I created a new word. That's the largest population that is growing. And as that happens, that particular population needs to have a quality of life as well. And so that comes to mind the idea of middle housing and possibly low income housing down the road. Stepping out of a proverbial box of just our big houses that we were putting up. So being cognizant of that. I think also fiduciary responsibility, and as we continue to grow, both residentially and business-wise, and as the traffic continues to increase in our community, we need to be mindful of how we continue to serve specific public service, the safety in our community, and how we're going to offset the challenges in our budget with PERS and so on and so forth. So those would be the actually 4 issues that I would come up with. I know, sorry.
One too many issues.
Looking ahead in the next 5 to 10 years, what must the city of Sherwood do to retain the high quality of life and livability of our community?
Comprehensive plan is one. More of a collaborative approach. I'm a big believer in de-siloing and working collaborative. So what can we do in our community to work with different organizations, agencies, businesses, whatever, to do what's best for our community? It doesn't always have to be the government. What does that look like? I don't have the answers, but would definitely be happy to assist in the visioning process about a comprehensive plan to discuss what I just said as far as rebuilding the trust, bringing collaborative efforts to the table with our citizenry, look at the budget issues, look at the growth issues, and formulating a plan, and then following through with that plan.
I'm just going to go with number 6. City councilors sometimes have to make unpopular decisions. How will you handle those who criticize those decisions? Not that that ever happens.
No,
but just
it never
in case.
happens, right? When I was on council, I think the biggest decision that we had to make at the time was the marijuana decision. And I showed at that particular time that I look through a variety of different lenses. And so when I make a decision, I vet it through multiple channels. And then I also make sure that it is in tune with my own moral compass, so that when I make a decision, I can stand behind that decision and not feel ashamed or like I have to back down. So vetting and making sure that it fits with my own ethics and integrity. Not afraid of uncomfortable situations at all. So I think that answers your question. It's something that it's part of life. We make decisions, and we need to stand behind those decisions.
I get another question. If you had to cut the city budget, which would be more important to you? Eliminating 2 police officer, I know, right? Eliminating 2 police officer positions or cutting services at the library, hours at the library? And why?
So again, being able to look outside the proverbial box, I don't necessarily think it has to be an either or. Now, I would side on public safety. However, I think we could be creative and look for alternative solutions so that we can have an and also and not an and or.
Yes, this position requires a significant time commitment, not only for city council meetings, but for assigned committee meetings as well. Do you have adequate time for this commitment?
I've shown in the past that yes, I can fulfill the duties of a counselor. I am well aware of the amount of reading materials and meeting times. Even though I'm no longer seated as a counselor, I still participate in a lot of the same type of meetings in my current role. So I am completely aware of and willing to complete the assignments.
Would you like number 9? Sure. Do you anticipate any conflicts of interest will arise if you are appointed to council? And if so, how would you handle them?
No, I do not anticipate any conflicts of interest, but if I ran into one, I would recuse myself. I've shown that I have sound judgment. I've done that in the past.
Do you want to finish this off?
Sure. Is there anything else you'd like us to know, or anything that you have a question for us, maybe?
So I think there's been some concern, at least it's been expressed by a couple of you that I've spoken to, and I know that there's some concern through comments that I've heard from the public that I will not be or present a biased opinion once the whole Y situation, whatever direction happens. And I am here to set the record straight that, yes, I can provide an unbiased opinion and come to a decision that is going to be the best for the whole. Yes, I have worked for the YMCA. Yes, I have a YMCA story of the impact that they've had on my life, but I also have concerns, and I want to make sure that we do what's right for the community. I think there are other opportunities that we could have before us besides just the RFP process and what we've gone through that would be beneficial to the community and specifically the Y supporters. And I think that we should look at those options. So just setting the record straight. I'm not one side or the other.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Ray.
Next we have
Mr. Khan, are you here? Yes. You can come on up.
right?
It's Con, isn't it?
And it's Michael, correct?
Michael.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Other than this.
We didn't get him this time. Hi, good evening. Thank you for coming.
Hi.
We'll just jump right in and let's start with Kim this
All
time.
right. Welcome. Can you tell us about yourself and why you want to serve on council?
Yeah, so my name is Michael Kahn. Been a resident Sherwood for 4.5, almost 5 years. I have 2 wonderful children, an amazing wife. I have been in education for the last 17 years of my life, and I'm the principal of Lord High School and all the vocational education opportunities out of McLaren Youth Correctional Facility. So, and my purpose for running and wanting this position is because I've sat through the last 5 council meetings watching and observing and feeling like Sherwood needs some real leadership and some guidance. I've never ran for office. I've never pursued office, but I've seen that it seems that at times we are intertwined too much inside some of the decisions that are made that are hindering people's ability to be impartial.
You have provided some of your background in your application. What do you feel are the strengths that you can bring to council?
So in my roles, I've always been a person who facilitates things. I work with 3 different agencies right now, 3 state agencies, and getting 3 state agencies to cooperate and see things eye to eye can be a challenge at times. So I think I do a really good job of collaborating and facilitating those things and getting decisions made that work for everybody. I'm a pretty clear leader. I make decisions at that time and listen to the input of folks, but once a decision has been made, then that's where it is. But it's done after listening to people and not with a personal agenda, but actually what's in the best interest of the agency and the people of this community, or in this community if I were to get the position.
What do you feel like your responsibilities would be as a member of City Council?
I think, well, my responsibilities would be to the people of Sherwood to make decisions that are in the best interest of this community, regardless of, you know, relationships with people or anything that would kind of hinder good decisions. I think my job would be to make sure that the decisions that are made actually are in the best interest of the entire community, just not some or with my own personal agenda.
Sure. So what do you see as the 3 most important issues facing Sherwood over the next 3 years?
I think the first one is reestablishing trust in this group here. That's number one. The second one being that I think, as Renee said, the importance of growing this community would be the second one, of making sure that we have some tax revenues that don't just rely upon the residents of Sherwood, but actually then we start to bring in some more businesses that can help kind of carry some of the tax burden. But at the same time, I guess the third would be to making sure that our local law enforcement has the resources it needs as the community grows, and as businesses come in, to making sure that the local authorities actually grow with it at the same time.
All right, looking ahead in the next 5 to 10 years, what must the city of Sherwood do to retain the high quality of life and livability of our community?
Well, it's a great community. I mean, that's why we moved here. I think it's finding the ability to continue to maintain what we currently have, meaning the sidewalks, the roads, all of those things, and making that a top priority, but at the same time finding new tax revenue, new sources for taxes that continue to support those things. Maintaining the parks. The parks are a huge draw for a lot of people, not only in this town, but in other towns. So being able to make sure that we can actually maintain what we have, instead of having to make those hard choices where we cut one thing because we can't afford it.
Thanks.
Councilor Young, would you like to take number 6?
City councilors sometimes have to make unpopular decisions. How will you handle those who criticize you or a decision you have made?
I make hard decisions every day, and that's just part of the job. So I think as long as your reasoning is sound, then I think people understand, even if they don't agree. I think, but that takes the ability to communicate articulately what it is and why you made that decision, and being able to stand without any type of hidden agenda or something that people would call in as unethical approach. Right? I think you just need to be able to make it based on the facts of what you have before you, and just make it based on that, not with any other influences.
If you had to cut the city budget, which would be more important to you? Eliminating 2 police officer positions or reducing the hours in the library, and why?
Cut the library. Mainly because I think the community safety is priority number one. As city council members and mayors and all that, I think making sure the people of Sherwood are safe comes first and foremost.
Can I make a request to change those 2 options?
We're done.
Options.
Poor Adrian.
I'm so glad
Going
Adrian's
forward.
not. Yeah, I'm glad Adrian's not at these meetings. We're just be breaking her heart.
Thank you. Would you like to take number 8, my dear?
This position, this position requires a significant time commitment, not only for city council meetings, but for assigned committee meetings as well, which for all intents and purposes is probably irrelevant for between now and November 8th, but do you have adequate time for this commitment?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't have put my application if I didn't think I could make time. Work is nothing. It's something I've never shied away from. I have no problem with that. So I'm a worker bee.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Do you anticipate any conflicts of interest will arise if you were appointed to the council? And if so, how would you handle them?
No, and I guess that's one of my strong points. I don't know anybody in this town. I don't socialize with anybody. I go to work. I come home. I spend time with my amazing family, and then I go to bed. I'm not affiliated with the Y. And that's not good or bad. I'm not pro-Y. I'm not anti-Y. I'm a Sherwood citizen who gets up and goes to work and pretty much stays within my 2 blocks.
You do realize that this video will be posted, and now you will be known by a large majority of people.
Yeah,
Sure, come into your house and meet you.
That's fine. That's fine.
Stop you in the grocery store.
Right.
Thank you. Is there anything else you want to tell us about yourself, or do you have any questions for us before we release you?
No, I'm good.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks.
I think he was the perfect way to end the evening on that. That's good. Okay. So now we discuss, I guess.
Yes. So
Super awkward to have these
Yeah,
discussions
so this is
right in
the
front of
city
all of you.
attorney actually put together a document that was in your packet, hopefully, that explains the process that we are recommending to make a selection tonight. You can explain
It's
that.
page 35 and 36.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the process is outlined is really on page 36, and I would ask if you have any questions before we dive in to ask Josh about any of the steps.
And I apologize, it's a clunky process. We tried to make it as streamlined as possible, but we're confined by what the code requires, so it is a little clunky.
Well, and often in the past, we have had interviews and then had a work session and then brought the appointment. So it is a little bit more clunky, for lack of a better word, trying to do it all in one meeting. So,
And as I was reading this, it talked about ballots, and I remember the last time the council members actually filled out ballots, but it doesn't sound like that's what you're recommending this time. We're just going to make a nomination and
I'm not
as many
recommending-
nominations.
There's a ballot in the sense that there's a vote, but not a written ballot. We don't know who you're going to nominate, so we don't know what names to put on a ballot. So we'll do it all orally. Yeah.
Okay.
so does anyone want to discuss?
Sure. I would like to just
Talk about the people in the room like they're not there?
I think all the candidates are here, at least, yeah. I would like to say that we have had such a great, high-quality group of people who have applied for this position. Each one of you are in different stages of the type of work that you're doing for the city, experience, but all of the people that we've interviewed, I personally feel have demonstrated integrity, and it makes our decision a lot harder to choose. And I hope that those of you who aren't, because we can only choose one, would consider a position in the city in the future either on council or on a commission. But it's really nice to have this kind of a problem, to be honest, to have good quality candidates. So I very much appreciate that.
No additional comments from me. No, she said it all.
I agree with Councilor Kuiper. I think all 5 of the candidates were qualified, and it's going to be tough. Can't we just pull a name out of a hat?
I know. And I would like to thank you for applying. As someone, I would say, in the proverbial hot seat right now, it's a tough job to throw your name in the ring to do it and to be subject to everything that you could be subject to, both good and bad, because there's both. I think takes a lot of character and a lot of strength, and it's not for the faint at heart. And I think that at this point in the game, throwing your name in even shows a lot more character and willingness to be a part of the solution and not just a complainer about the problem. So regardless, I think, of what ends up happening and who gets the position, I'm really excited to have some names, especially new names that we haven't seen in the past, hopefully coming up in the ranks and being interested in being on council and serving in other areas until there are more positions available, because we all know there will be more positions available in the coming months. So
And
I
I'd like to
appreciate
add
that.
one
Yeah,
item.
please.
I'd also like to say it was interesting to hear some of the ideals, not just from tonight, but from our prior interviews, because for many of us on the dais, those were and continue to be our ideals as well. When you're faced with lots of different things coming at you, lots of decisions that need to be made, it's very interesting about how your personal ideals or your personal compass plays out. So I thought that was very, very interesting. So thanks.
I have a question, and I don't know if this is Joe or Josh. We have 2 applicants that are currently members of our Budget and Planning Commission, 1 each. Do they lose their spots?
Yes.
Even for just the 3 weeks that
You can't be
they're.
a city councilor and in one of those other positions.
So if in
They-
3
they
weeks
could-
that wasn't filled, theoretically, council could reappoint them, but there'd have to be an application process, right?
If they were not elected, they could be reappointed to those positions. That's right.
So can you, when you're a city councilor, can you be on any other board or commission?
Not any of the city boards or commissions, no.
Good question.
And Chief Growth is whispering they could be reappointed by the council.
Right.
So if you had a vacancy, you could always accept applications for that vacancy, including from the person that lost their seat, and reappoint at that point in time.
Right.
And I think it's also important to remember that this person, whoever you pick, is likely only going to serve until maybe the first meeting in December, because of the November 7th election. Someone will be selected by the voters. There's an outside chance that could be the second meeting in November, but it is more likely it'll be the first meeting in December by the time the county certifies the election results and it is brought back to you. So whoever you pick tonight could be a very short tenure, 3, maybe 4 meetings max.
My comment would be that my understanding that we actually don't have to appoint someone under our charter. Correct?
The charter does require us to appoint.
It does?
Yes.
Even if it's less than,
Yes.
okay. Okay, that's fine.
And that, for clarity, that's a change in the charter. The language, the last time there was a vacancy, did not require that. The language changed, and it is now required. So there may be some confusion with that in the community as well.
Oh, the other thing I want to say is there's been a lot of talk that Councilor Harris and I have been delaying this process along with the mayor. And I want to assure everyone that there was no such action taken by either one of us. And actually, I don't think any of us made any effort to delay this. process. So I just wanted to make sure everybody is aware of that.
Perfect, thank you. Do we have any nominations?
Sylvia, do you have anything you need to do first?
So council, just wanted to, for the record, the council's on page 36 of the packet that has instructions there. Also for the record, we should name all 5 applicants as Russell Griffin, Mr. Kurt Studer, Doug Scott, Renee Browse, and Michael Kahn. Those were the 5 individuals who the council interviewed. So at this time, I will ask the council for a nomination of an individual. That nomination needs to have a second. If that nomination does not have a second, then that nomination basically dies. So Council President Harris, I don't know if you want to start on one end or the other, but if you would like to indicate the order in which those nominations are going to be taken, that would be great.
Can I clarify something?
Yeah, please.
So there can be multiple nominations, and then we will take a vote after all the nominations are made?
Correct. So you'll have a nomination and a second. Once I have a nomination and a second, I have my little tally sheet here. I'll note that down. Obviously, if there's not a second, then I'm not going to note it down. That individual does not go forward.
And we don't all have to nominate someone.
Not if you don't choose to, no.
Anybody want?
I would like to nominate Renee Browse.
Okay.
No, second.
I'd like to nominate Russell Griffin.
And I'll second. Anyone for you? Specific? Okay.
So at this time, there's no other nominations? Is that correct?
Forever hold your peace.
All right, council, thank you. We have 2 nominations currently, Renee Browse and Russell Griffin. At this time, I will ask for the council to basically we'll call for a vote. And then the vote needs to be an aye vote, obviously, or a nay vote. and in doing so, if the council can also indicate by a hand raise, that would be wonderful. All right. So those in favor of Russell Griffin, please say aye.
Aye.
Those in favor of Renee Browse, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I believe, Josh, we have a decision here. We'll
Ready.
have Russell Griffin appointed to the position vacated by Councilor King to fill the remainder of Councilor King's term until the next election. Thank you.
In just a point of clarity, we will invite Mr. Griffin at your next meeting a week from tonight to be sworn in. So.
Thank you again for everyone who
Thank you.
applied. I hope to see you again soon. All right. Now if I can find my proper paperwork. Let's move on to Resolution 2017-074, declaring a vacancy in the mayor's position on City Council.
So again, Council President and Council, this should be somewhat familiar. It's very similar to what happened back in late July when Councilor King resigned. You did receive former Mayor Chrisanna Clark Endicott's resignation recently. You need to basically declare a vacancy tonight. There's a resolution that is in front of you that will start the process. Because there's more than 13 months left in the former mayor's term, we'll start the application process, and folks can apply to serve as the mayor until the next available election, which is March 13th. And then there'll be an election, and then the citizens will vote to fill that seat until the end of the mayor's term, which is the end of 2018. So all you're doing tonight is officially declaring the seat vacant and starting the process. Sylvia has been working hard to get all the application materials together. Everything is ready to go tomorrow to start the process. We are proposing that applications would be due at by 5 o'clock on Friday, October 27th, which is approximately 2.5 weeks. Depending on how many applications you get, then we'll decide the process in November to move forward. Another point of clarity, there is no deadline for you to make a decision to fill the seat per the charter. So the charter speaks 2 different ways depending on how much time is left. So if there's more than 13 months left in the term, there is no deadline in the charter for you to act. It does say you have to fill the seat, though. It doesn't say how quickly you have to fill the seat. The charter says
March
if it's
could
less than
suffice.
13 months, you have actually 45 days to fill the seat.
That's interesting.
Charter says two different things, so.
I
So
would
it's
think we'd follow
really
this.
clear
again.
as much.
Yeah. we need to clear that.
Super obvious and easy to understand.
So are there any questions about where we are in the process that Josh or I or Sylvia can answer, depending on the question?
It's good.
I think so. I feel good. Does anyone have anything they want to discussion? Make a motion. Anyone?
Yep.
Sure. And before we make a motion, I just wanted to say these are going to be, the person filling this interim position has got pretty big shoes to fill. For those of you who either really enjoyed Mayor Clark Endicott or did not, the fact of the matter was she was working on behalf of the city from sunup, from sundown. We did get a list of, a whole list of different committees, regional committees, Washington County committees, transportation committees, water consortium, you name it, it was on the list, that this mayor attended all the time, throughout the week, throughout long days. And it's going to be big shoes to fill. When I met her, when her children were very small, it was in service. It was in community service. And I have no doubt that she'll continue community service no matter where she is, in Redmond and elsewhere. But this mayor's position is a big deal, and it takes time. There's a lot of time involved, and I just wanted to let everyone be aware, if you're considering filling this position, it'd be nice to be someone who doesn't have a full-time job. It's a tough position to be in, so thank you.
Councilor Kuiper, the document that we put together that provided a sampling of what Mayor Clark Endicott worked on will be available on the
Good.
website so people can get a sense of
Okay.
the outside responsibilities besides just being here normally 2 nights a week to run the council meeting.
Right, it's
That's the
almost
easy
a full-time job. Yeah, thank
But
you.
don't let that scare you if you do work full-time, because I believe some of our previous mayors did work.
Yes, they did.
Had flexible schedules.
A lot of
though.
them were self-employed.
Yes.
Yeah,
so
so
they had a lot of
self-employed.
flexibility.
And quite frankly, people on the dais now, I think we can probably take on some of those roles too. That if we did have folks that wanted to be mayor, we could shovel some
think things
roles
can be
around,
shuffled
maybe,
around.
guys. Yes.
Yeah, and I totally agree, and I think to your point, lover or hater, she worked hard. She made a name for Sherwood out in the community outside of Sherwood, which brings a lot of benefits to Sherwood, and I think I haven't publicly thanked her, and I would like to do that. I don't know that this is the perfect time to do that, but as we're talking about the job and how much of the job is done out of service to people and not for a paycheck and not, for anything other than a desire to serve, I think that is a major part of this position and a part of your willingness to take on the position. So I would just like to thank her for the job she did. And I move that Resolution 2017-074, declaring a vacancy in the mayor's position on City Council, be approved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Perfect. Thank you. That's all I have tonight. We are going to save our council comment till next week for our liaison positions and whatnot. If everybody's ready to go home, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
It was an option for us.